Welcome to the July 15th, 2024 study session of Livonia City Council. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Honorable Councilwoman Carrie Budzinski. Thank you, Councilwoman. Good evening, everyone. This meeting sets the agenda for the 1998th regular meeting, which is a voting meeting that will take place on Wednesday, August 7th, where tonight's items will be officially voted on. We actually have a full council. And right now I'm going to jump right into audience communication. We've set aside 30 minutes for audience communication for items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to speak right now, make your way to a podium. Seeing none, I'm going to move right on to council communication. Council? Seeing none? I do want to note that we do have new data on items 7 and 9. And we do have a request from the Department of Public Works to move item number 15 off of this study and move it to the study of August 7th. So for everybody, that is item number 15 is gone. We're going to move that to the next meeting. That's a request to extend a contract with HydroCorp. With that, we're going to jump right into the study agenda with our new business. Item number 1 is a block party request. This comes to us from Wafa de Niro to be held Saturday, August 10th, 2024, from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Huff Street, with a rain date of August 17th. Is Wafa here?
Mr. President.
Councilman Toy.
Go ahead. I'll yield to you, Councilman.
Mr. President, Ms. DeNaro is somebody who's known to us. I know her neighborhood and her area there. I'm happy to offer an approving for the regular agenda to give her an opportunity to come.
Thank you. Any more questions, concerns, Council? Seeing none. Anything from the audience? All right, we're moving on to item number 2, which is a request to waive the sidewalk requirement. This comes to us from Mark Goodson for the home to be constructed at 19805 Middle Belt Road in the southeast section, section 2. Who's this, Mr. Zielinski?
Thank you, Council President, Council members. Just want to let you know we did provide our opinion on this particular location. We know that there's surrounding sidewalks on the east side of the area, and just wanted to let you know that we believe that the sidewalk should be put in on this location. Again, that's our opinion, to help provide connectivity, as you know, throughout the community, especially at that particular location. So we have our report and drawings there for your information, and let you guys make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zielinski. Council, Mr. Donovan?
Mr. President, thank you. Are you the homeowner, builder?
Yes.
I have a question, if that's okay, Mr. President.
Yep.
Are there any, I'm trying to get a little understanding here because this lot is on the corner. Are you asking to waive the sidewalk requirement on Middle Belt and Brenton, or just Brenton?
On Breton.
Okay.
Yeah, there aren't any other sidewalks on Breton.
Because again, this house is the corner lot, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. President, looking at this aerial, there are no sidewalks on either the north or south side of Brenton Street for pretty much the entire block. I'm supportive of waiving the requirement for Brenton Street alone, not for Middle Belt Street. There are sidewalks up and down Middle Belt, and to our city engineer's point, making sure that we have that continued connectability and walkability. I think we should mandate sidewalks along Middle Belt, north and south, but I see no need to have one sidewalk on Brenton, the residential street, when there are no sidewalks either side.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Mr. Goodson, is that appropriate? Is that something you can deal with?
That was the plan.
Oh.
There is a sidewalk already on Middle Belt.
Okay. So,
Mr. President,
yes.
With that being said, through construction, I know there's an approach there to Mr. Zielinski that may be a concern for the engineering department, and naturally through construction that sidewalk might be affected. So I would have engineering do what they do to make sure that it meets all the requirements, and if they have any concerns with the approach on Middle Belt. But in terms of sidewalks on Brenton Street, I don't see a need for them, but making sure that engineering has all their everything they need to do to make sure that the sidewalks on Middlebelt are to their satisfaction.
Would you like to offer a motion on that?
Yes, sir, for the regular.
All right, so you have an approving on regular, which means we will formally vote on that item at the next council meeting on August 7th. But it is obviously with the motion that it would be waived on Brenton, just the current spots that are with your sidewalks now.
Right. And also to your point about the driveway approach, that is, the plan is to remove that. That's a part of the plan, so, on Middlebelt.
So that's a plan to remove the approach off of Middlebelt.
Yes, that's already been submitted to Wayne
Okay.
County.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to
Yes.
amend my motion, please, on consent, please, if there's no objection from my colleagues.
Is there any objection to put on a consent? We'll make it better. You can come hang out with us on the 7th, but Councilman Donovic just gave you, put it on consent, which means
Thank
it's all.
you. Thank you very much, council.
So thanks for hanging out with us today,
Sure
sir.
enough. Have a great evening.
You too. Is there any audience communication on Mr. Goodson's sidewalk requirement? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to item number 3, which is a request for consideration of a proposed ordinance amendment. This comes to us from Steve Johnson to allow the noise ordinance enforcement to begin at 10 p.m. Mr. Johnson, I'm just going to go right to you on this item since you are the petitioner on it.
Yep, thank you, President McCullough. It's actually not, I put in a proposal that the quiet time starts at 10 p.m. Currently, it starts at 11 p.m. So it's not, the noise ordinance encompasses a lot more than just the quiet time at 11 p.m. But the quiet time is not actually 11 p.m. because the Livonia police will not accept calls for violation of the quiet time ordinance until after 11 p.m. And quite often, they don't get out there 11:30, 12 o'clock, and admittedly, violations of the noise ordinance are most likely not a high priority with the police. So changing the quiet time to 10 p.m. will allow the police to get things settled down by 11 p.m. I ask that this be placed into a committee so we can discuss it further and get further input.
Awesome. No, thanks, Mr. Johnson, for bringing this forward. I'm going to go to Vice President first.
Thank you. I do think we need to hear from LPD on the number of complaints, the resolutions to those complaints, et cetera. How many events and locations are exceeding 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. currently? I think this could create a burdensome amount of waivers if we were to drop it to 10 p.m., but that's something I think we need to discuss. And as we know, ordinance changes have consequences and oftentimes are not what we're trying to resolve. So I just want to make sure we do our due diligence on this before sending it to a vote. So I would like to make a motion to send this to committee of the whole for discussion.
Support.
Perfect. So we do have a motion to put this to committee of whole. Is that fine on the consent?
Sure.
Perfect.
Is
All
that
right.
okay?
Anything else from council on this item?
Madam Vice President,
Yes, sir.
would that be more appropriate in the Law and Education Committee?
Possibly, we could go with that.
I would prefer it be in
Okay.
Law and Education,
I'll
just
amend
because we have a system of,
Sure.
and it's not in particular to this, but we do have a system of committees, and I want to spread the issues around a little bit when appropriate.
I will-
He's our attorney.
I'll amend my,
You know what?
I will amend my motion to
Parliamentarian
law and
talk there,
education.
that's fine.
That is fine.
So we have a motion to put this in law and education on
We
consent.
support that? Support.
Anything else from council? Anything from the audience? Mr. Johnson, we will see you for another meeting.
You'll notify me when that meeting is?
Nope.
Oh, you won't?
Yes, we will. We'll make sure we get a hold of you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Would you like to speak on it?
I would like to speak on it. Matthew Shalam, 8844 Cardwell. I've come before you guys before over my problem with Live Lounge. You know, I'm just in here support of this motion because these little clubs seem to be popping up all over the place. Councilman Donovic had brought this up to you guys before. And I do agree with Steve here, and this one I'd like you to think about. Just because it's 10 doesn't mean we want them there at 10. It's just we can call at 10, and when all emergencies are done, they can get out by 10:45, and then by 11 it's quiet. So please take that in consideration when you have this discussion, and hopefully I'll see you guys back for this vote.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Between you and Steve, we'd hopefully like to have you at that meeting for discussion. It's a public meeting, so we'll make sure you know about it.
Thank you. I will definitely be here.
Now, anything further from the audience? Seeing none, We're going to now move on to item number 4, which is an appointment of Patrick Droz to the Livonia Planning Commission. This comes to us from the Office of Mayor for a 3-year term, which will expire on June 9th, 2027. Mr. Tormina.
Thank you. I am happy to introduce Mr. Droz as our 7th Planning Commissioner. This is the mayor's appointment that requires council's confirmation. Patrick is employed with Orchard Hills and McClement, a firm everyone is familiar with. He is a lifelong resident of the city. He has several municipal clients, including Detroit, City of Dexter, and others, Grosse Pointe Park. He's a resident of Livonia, and we're happy to see him as potentially our next commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Patrick, do you have anything to say? You got about 5 minutes for everybody here? No, you don't
I'll
have.
keep it short. You know, there's plenty of items on the agenda. As Mark had mentioned, my background is in engineering, and I've pretty much been with OHM since high school, placed there right through LPS Career Internship Program. And so my day and sometimes night job is a lot of times sitting on this side, offering basically the engineering perspective on planning. But certainly as a resident, you know, growing up in the city, watching it develop, watching things basically built for an intended purpose, and then maybe, you know, that time comes. I see that, you know, there's been a lot of value in all the good decisions and the good planning that the city's benefited from, you know, in its time. And just the opportunity to serve, you know, I've always been interested in that and looking forward to the opportunity if you'll give it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Toy.
if I may, what high school did you go to?
Stevenson.
That's a no vote.
Oh, boy. It's really too bad. Anyhow,
I think Bentley was closed by the time I went to high school.
He was trying to get over to Bentley. Trust me, he was.
I know, well, that's okay. You probably have seen Bentley at one point when it was there.
I'm aware
Okay.
of it, yes.
Anyhow, I'll ask for an approving in spite of him going to Stevenson.
Is that cool on consent?
Yes, and consent.
Councilman Jolly.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I think
just,
I didn't mention Michigan State then.
No, thank God, thank God.
Mr. President, just really quickly, in looking at the biography of Mr. Droz, I think he kind of mentioned it very briefly, but he started as an intern at OHM in high school, and I think it's very important to have somebody tested by time and start as an intern and find themselves to be a partner of a company that they started at in high school. He's clearly put in his work and he knows what he's doing, and I think that's a testament to longevity in regards to his work ethic. So, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Droz, for being here this evening. I was doing some research on you, and as some of my colleagues have stated tonight, you have an impressive background, and it's very applicable to the Planning Commission. But then I found one thing. Is that true that you are the roundabout guy? You help create roundabouts in our state?
I will actually say that is not correct.
Okay, all right.
That
I was
would
definitely
be
going to know
fake
those
news.
roundabouts.
I refer to Mr. Caters on the traffic.
Okay,
committee.
that's
He's-
what it is. Awesome. No, I was doing some research, and OHM does a great job, and it's pretty impressive to have an OHM person in our city that's a resident and now bringing that experience and knowledge to the Planning Commission. I think it's awesome. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure.
Well, you have an approving on consent. You got some good accolades. We got you hidden from the Bentley thing from Toy. You're all but assured to have this approved. Again, thank you for contributing to your hometown. And again, just as we're saying, if you've seen some of the early meeting, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Absolutely.
So having you there with some vision and innovation would be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support of the block party.
There you go.
I'm on Lady Bird.
There we go.
Thanks.
Any other questions from council? What about the audience? You're good to go. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 5, which is appointment of Deborah Lichtenberg to the Livonia Economic Development Corporation. This comes to us from the Office of the Mayor to complete a 6-year term, which will expire on June 7th, 2026. Mr. Tormina?
Thank you. If it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to include the next item, kind of combine these and provide a little background. Livonia's EDC, or Economic Development Corporation, has been around for several decades and was very active in the 1970s and 80s. They issue tax-exempt industrial revenue bonds, which help finance. Back then, it was mostly industrial projects. They financed the construction, land acquisition, renovation, machinery and equipment. But over the years, there have been changes both to the statute and the IRS rules that limits the types of projects that the EDC can help finance. The last major project was in 2007, when it issued variable rate limited obligation revenue bonds to Madonna University for them to construct the new Media and Science, or Science and Media building. Those bonds were refunded in 2009, and now the borrower, Madonna University, is once again asking the EDC to issue a series of limited obligation bonds to help refinance that project. Well, this is going to require the council to hold a public hearing. We have that scheduled for next Monday, and then following that, the EDC has to issue the bonds. But because the EDC has not met for over 10 years, the membership has declined. Currently, we have 3 members serving on that corporation. It's Charlie Mahoney, Patrick Crandall, and Greg Coppola. In order to conduct business, the EDC requires no fewer than 5 members for a quorum. Luckily, the statute, Act 338 of 1974, allows up to 3 members of the EDC to be either officers or employees of the municipality, and it's for this reason that we are seeking your approval to nominate or to appoint both Deborah Lichtenberg, our finance director, and Dave Varga, chief of staff, to serve on the EDC. I'll point out that Dave previously participated in the Madonna University project as a neighborhood business representative. This was a requirement of the statute for a new project, so Dave is familiar with the process. He did that at a time when he worked as the editor for the Observer Eccentric newspapers, which in 2007 was located at the corner of Levan and Schoolcraft Roads. Tom Colas, who is no longer here this evening, he does serve as our bond counsel. He will be at the public hearing next week, and he'll help explain this in greater detail, but we're seeking your support to elect both Deborah and Dave to the EDC.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to open it up to council for, this is just for item number 5 for right now. Let's do them in series. Do I have a direction?
Mr. President, I'll offer an approving for consent in regards to number 5 and Deborah Lichtenberg. It makes sense, and it's an appropriate choice. Thank you.
Anything further from council? Anything from the audience? All right, we got an approving on consent for item number 5. We're going to move on to item number 6, which is an appointment of Dave Varga to the Livonia Economic Development Corporation. This will be a 6-year term, which will expire on June 7th, 2027. Council?
Mr. President, I'll offer an approving on consent for Mr. Varga as well.
Council, anything further? Audience? I mean, maybe we just ask Mr. Varga some questions? No, I'm messing with you. With that, both our items are in consent. We're going to move on to item number 7, which is a waiver petition. This comes to us from the Planning Commission in reference to petition 2023-06-02-07, submitted by the 7 Mile and Farmington Venture LP, requesting special waiver use approval to develop a planned general development consisting of a 75,466 square foot Meijer grocery store and a 102-unit multifamily residential townhome complex at the property at 33500 West 7 Mile Road. Mr. Tormino.
Thank you. This is, again, a request to develop a planned general development consisting of a grocery store and a multifamily townhomes. This is at the northwest corner of Farmington and 7 Mile Roads, the former Kmart property. The overall site is 16.5 acres. The westerly portion of the site, which is roughly 6.8 acres, would be developed as the residential phase of the project, and then the remaining easterly part, 9.75 acres, would contain the Meijer store. I'll go through the townhome design first. This residential phase would consist of 12 townhomes that would contain a total of 102 apartment units. 9 of the buildings would be 2 stories in height. 3 would be 3 stories in height. These include the 2 buildings along 7 Mile Road and the one facing the grocery store. And just to get you familiar with this plan, on the left-hand side is the townhome site plan. The three-story buildings that I just mentioned are shown here with the purple dots, buildings B, A, and K. This is 7 Mile along the bottom of the page. So the Meijer, you can see where the proposed grocery store is. So these are the 3 buildings that would be 3 stories. All the remaining buildings within that development would be 2 stories in height, including the ones that border the residential district. The density would be just under 15 dwelling units per acre. For mixed development centers, the master plan recommends a maximum density of 20 units per acre. The plan includes 72 2-bedroom and 30 three-bedroom apartments. The unit sizes would range from 1,050 square feet for the smallest two-bedroom unit to 1,480 square feet for the largest three-bedroom apartment. All the units would have attached garages, one car for the two-bedroom units and two cars for the three-bedroom units. The four interior buildings that you see here, buildings G, D, L, and J, are positioned such that they create 100 by 150-foot landscaped courtyard. There is a one-story leasing and management office that would be located at the south end of Building D, and that's located right here approximately. Along the west side of the development, buildings E, F, and I would be roughly 40 feet from the abutting residential properties, and then buildings C would be roughly 45 feet. So all of these buildings would be 40 feet from the neighboring homes in Windridge Village subdivision, and then building C is about 45 feet away from that property line. There would be one driveway that would serve the development located here. The three-story buildings each measure about 37 feet in height. The two-story buildings 27 feet in height. The ordinance requires a total of 219 parking spaces to serve the residential project. The plan shows 258 spaces. This includes 132 within the garages, 95 within the driveways, and then 31 additional spaces throughout the development. That translates to roughly 2.5 parking spaces per townhome. The design, and we'll go through this a little bit later, includes brick veneer, composite siding, and metal accents. All of the buildings would have peaked roofs and asphalt shingles. The grocery store, as was mentioned, it's roughly 75,460 square feet. The overall dimensions of the store are 330 feet by 260 feet. From the right-of-way of Farmington Road, the building would be set back roughly 270 feet, and then from 7 Mile Road, that distance is 237 feet. The site plan shows 282 parking spaces, mostly along the south and east sides of the storefront. This equates to roughly 3.75 spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. The receiving docks and other service components would be located here in the northwest corner of the building. That's about 265 feet from the residential district. There would be 12 to 14 foot high masonry walls on either side of that receiving area, and then a 20-foot high masonry sound wall would wrap around the truck turning area, which is roughly 77 feet north from the north lot line. So if you look very closely, so this is where the receiving area would be for the trucks. These two lines here are the 12 and 14-foot high walls that would help enclose that area. And then back here along the edge of the truck turning area, this would be a 20-foot high sound wall. And the distance from that sound wall to the property line is roughly 77 feet. And then along the property line itself, there is a masonry screen wall. That wall varies in height right now about 4 to 5 feet in height. One of the stipulations of the Planning Commission resolution is that that wall be increased to a height of at least 6 feet. Landscaping is provided along the road frontages, including the southeast corner, as well as or close to the intersection. This includes a low-profile masonry wall. And then as you look along 7 Mile Road, that landscaping, the width of it increases from about 20 to 45 feet. And there is a so-called community plaza located here, right at the junction between the residential phase of the project and the commercial phase. Access to the across from the store's main entrance here, there's another sitting area. You can see additional green space along Farmington Road and this portion of the site on the north side of the building. This is the area where this is 8 pickup spaces, so persons who want to pick up their groceries would do so at this location, and then there would be the ability to turn back around and exit out to Farmington Road. Additional features around the building include a pharmacy drive-through that's located here in the southwest portion of the building, cart storage, bottle return, outdoor sales display areas, all the things that you would typically see associated with the full-service grocery store. And then, as mentioned, the truck wells, the fire pump house, employee shelter, fenced-in mechanical yard, trash compactor, and the recycling area are all located here on the north side of the building. The building materials, this was a topic of quite a bit of discussion with the Planning Commission. The design has changed over the course of the past year in reviewing this project. The plan now shows the exterior of the building mostly as insulated precast concrete walls. These would have embedded masonry brick as well as burnished block. I'll let the architect describe this in greater detail, but the darker shade of the building would be the stucco or an ephes finish. Again, it's concrete. These are tilt-up panels. And then these lighter shade areas of the building, this is the embedded brick, the embedded block materials, and you can see some of the other features of the building's design, which includes the gray tinted insulated glazing and spandrel glass along the front of the building where the corner entrance is. There are shade canopies as well as sconce lighting. There was a traffic impact study provided with the application. Number of improvements were requested, including a new signal at Farmington and the north driveway across from Gable Street, as well as timing adjustments to the signals at Farmington and 7 Mile Road and 7 Mile and Gill, new pavement markings and signage at the south driveway along Farmington. I will note that the Planning Commission resolution does defer the final determination of the traffic signal for 1 year, for which the applicant is seeking clarification in the event that the county's approval is contingent on completion of that signal. And I'll let the petitioner describe their concerns relative to that particular condition of the motion. So with that, Mr. President, I'll answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Termina. If just for, I guess, a flow is, why don't we go to council for questions to Mr. Termina, and then I'll open it up to the audience and with the petitioner too, and make sure they get a chance to voice any questions they may have. So, council, if you got questions for Mr. Termina. Councilman Toy?
Mr. Termina, on the northwest, what abuts that part of the site?
Northwest, again, this is the residential homes within the Windridge Village subdivision. I probably have, let me show you.
I guess
on a
what I'm
different
talking
program.
about is where the mire is.
Oh,
That-
here.
Right up in there, yeah, and as you come to Farmington Road. What is that right there?
Well, this is the
Is that the
McDonald's.
McDonald's?
This is the McDonald's,
Okay,
yes, that is correct.
Okay, that's what I wondered, if that was commercial in there. Okay, all right.
You good right now?
Big improvement over the Kmart site at the moment, so you really cleaned it up.
Councilman Jolly?
Mr. Tormina, there's currently a berm that runs along 7 Mile and Farmington Road. Would that berm be taken down? That's what it appears to be.
How much of the elevation rise would remain, I can't say. The whole area will be re-landscaped. I suspect that grade will come down slightly along 7 Mile Road, at least in the area around here where they have to create this, where they're creating this plaza area. So right here in the corner. I'll let the design engineer respond to that, but I'd say most of that berm is going to be flattened.
Okay. Yeah, when the architect or designer comes up, I'd like to hear an answer in regards to that. Thank you.
Councilman Donovic?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Tormina, can you help explain or kind of craft what the existing zoning is and what they're allowed to do? For example, right now, if the petitioner just wanted to do a big box store, and can you help us understand that, what they're allowed to do existing right now as opposed to the planned general development that they're proposing?
Well, the zoning of all 16 and a half acres is C2 general business. So anything that is allowed in that commercial zoning classification as a permitted use could either occur within the buildings that exist there on the site, obviously with some investment and renovation to those buildings. But if it involved any type of change to the site itself, it would require your approval of the site plan. But there's a wide range of uses that are allowed within the C2 zoning district, ranging from general retail and office uses to more intensive businesses, some of which would have to come back through a special approval process.
So, Mr. Tormina, hypothetically speaking, if the petitioner just wanted to propose a mire on the site, short of exterior renovations and whatnot, what would that conversation be? Would we have to approve a Meyer proposal, so to speak, since it's already existing, or how would that work?
Well, it still falls under a waiver use in that the Meyer would be over 30,000 square feet. So any single businesses or buildings in excess of 30,000 square feet still requires waiver use approval. If they wanted to occupy the existing building, certainly they could do that within their rights under the C2 zoning.
Okay. Just they'd have to do, like you said, some renovations and whatnot that we would require.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Budzinski?
So obviously the site's been vacant for a decade or more, and we're looking at adding a lot of new usage, especially utility, water, sewage with the apartment or townhomes. Are there concerns about what impact that would have on our infrastructure systems? I don't see a retention pond. Is it underground? Is it not needed? I just know some residents have reached out about concerns about already having unreliable service with DTE or any unintended consequences with sewer, water and sewer. Do you have those concerns, or has that been looked at?
Well, the engineering, there's not been a full evaluation at this time relative to all of the utility services provided on the site. I will say that all stormwater, it's been indicated that that'll all be accommodated underground in detention systems, in structural detention systems. Currently, the site right now does not have any type of stormwater management other than catch basins and pipes that flow, unrestricted or unattenuated into the storm systems within 7 Mile and Farmington roads. As for the other utilities, again, there would be a full evaluation by our engineering division and by Wayne County as it relates to the roadways in determining whether or not the systems are appropriate. I know the engineer, which provided a report, a very preliminary report, indicated that that's something that they still have to go through. But there's no indication of any major concerns at this time that there seems to be the capacity to accommodate the development.
What part of the process would we expect to then hear about the utility needs, and is that something that happens before final approval of this project?
It would not the final engineering. That's typically something that occurs after full entitlement or council's approval of the site plan or waiver use. That's when it triggers the review of all those engineering documents need to be finalized and presented to the various departments for their review.
Thank you.
Councilman Donovan?
Thanks, Mr. President. Just to piggyback off that, Mr. Tormina, so what you're saying is right now the site does not have any sort of stormwater detention system. It's just traditional sewer system.
I'm not aware that there are any existing stormwater detention facilities on the site. This was developed at a time when
It wasn't required.
we didn't have those requirements. The plans today show, at least preliminarily, how they're going to accomplish that through underground detention systems, and that's all required to meet the new Wayne County stormwater ordinance.
Because the new Wayne County laws and city ordinances would mandate that this size of development would now have to do underground or some sort of stormwater detention.
Correct.
Okay, so it would be improving the stormwater systems if this was approved.
No question.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Council, anything else for Mr. Tormina? Is the petitioner is here with the designer. If I maybe have council rifle off some questions that could be answered from some of the questions we did have, would be prudent at this point. Councilman Jolly, you want to start with your question that you did have? Good evening.
Good evening.
This may be the simplest question you get all night, but
Uh-oh.
the berm that currently exists, is that can be taken down to the sidewalk level, or what's the plan for that?
Maintained. I mean, it might be tweaked and evened out, but the berm will still exist as we landscape that. On the landscape plans, there's shrubs and other plantings along that berm.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because the rendering that we see shows, this presentation of Meyer, I should say, on the corner, kind of like from the corner looking at it, you would see the presentation of the store. I'm having a hard time envisioning what that would look like with the current berms existing there, to be honest with you. It seems like And again, I'm not a landscape architect, so.
Yeah, are
I'm just
you
trying to-
referring to like the corner rendering?
Correct.
Yeah. So, right now, that grade does rise from the intersection to like that parking area, and that's kind of why we had that wall. That wall's acting as like a retaining wall that creates more of a level, flat spot in front of it for plantings. But as you go down, that berm comes from the corner and extends down both 7 Mile and Farmington.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, so the road to the parking lot, there's an elevation change there. They're not at the same elevation, so it's kind of a bigger drop to the road side than to the parking lot side.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, anything else for Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually have some questions for Meyer. The truck docks. So if we're looking at the truck docks on the back, and I know there we go. Is there any way to move those just a little bit farther away from the residential area, or is that mostly going to be, I guess that's more the McDonald's, isn't it, right there? The concerns I'm hearing from residents are worried about trucks coming at all times of day and night.
Right. I wanted to let council members know that we pulled the building 30 feet forward in our last iteration of site plans to get it further away from the residents. We have done some studies on the noise and looked at refrigeration, and we do a couple of things on refrigeration trucks. We do what's called whisper units, where we can plug the trucks into outlets so they can turn off the diesel engine. We are showing there's 6 docks, and one of them is this kind of the solid, you can see a little darker line on there. That's for our trash compactor and our cardboard and our recyclables. The trucks need about 125 feet to make turns, and I think we've shifted, it's like kind of like a balancing act, trying to balance the distance from the neighbors and then our parking needs, the size of the building, green space, all those things. We pulled it as far away from the residences as we can. I think the number was like 67 feet. Did I hear that correctly? For deliveries, we only do, it depends on the volume of the store and how busy it is, but we do, in the overnight hours, we do 1 to 2 fresh deliveries at night. We do about 24 deliveries a week, but for the overnight hours, it's only 1 to 2 based on volume.
Okay. No, I appreciate that we've moved the Meyer, from our original rendering, you've moved it quite a bit forward, and I do appreciate that. Other questions I'm getting a lot from the residents, lighting. What would be the hours for the buildings and maybe the parking lot?
Currently, we have 2 of the similar stores to this. This will be a very unique store, a one-of-a-kind for Michigan. We did 2, one in Lake Orion, one in Macomb. They were 90,000 square feet, and from learning, we've made the building smaller here to 75,000 square feet. Those hours are from 6 a.m. to midnight. And lights, here you have an ordinance for 20-foot tall lights, so we're adhering to that ordinance. We do have the ability to control the lights from a software program from home office, so we can power down the lights, after business hours. We may need to leave a handful of lights on for security reasons, because we do run a third shift in the buildings, and there's any more deliveries are all by GPS, so they know when the truck leaves Lansing in this case, or perhaps even, we have a distribution center in Detroit. It might even be coming from Detroit. It's at Newport Township. So they know when to expect the truck, when it arrives, so there's personnel available to unload it, and it takes a minimal amount of time to turn that truck right back around. I would say also that we bought 2 electric transfer trucks, and we're experimenting with the electric trucks right now. They only have about 100-mile range, so they can only go 50 miles out, 50 miles back, but we're working with those. Hopefully that range will keep increasing.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. The light spill and the sound obviously are big concerns for the residents that live right there. My last concern, I guess, when we've met before, we've talked about this not looking like a big box Meijer. We're trying to create a vision here in Livonia, Vision 21, and that's kind of the look. And we've talked about the look, and I know it's not the same exact kind of store, but in Royal Oak or on Jefferson or even in downtown Grand Rapids, and I'm not opposed to the idea of this being a basic market, but I just don't want it to look like a mini big box.
Right.
And I know we've talked about making it look more like an artisan market, maybe a little more monochromatic. The big red sign to me just does not give us that homey neighborhood market feel. And I guess are we married to it having to look like this? I thought we were gonna kind of make it less big box looking.
Well, I would say that we've been through over the past year, been to rapid response, been to some collaborative meetings with Mark and staff, been to some meetings with a combination of planning commission members, city council members, mayor. We took some input to make it to kind of like inspirational, kind of vignetted the design. We have made significant changes from earlier versions. I think the corner entry is really fits this site very well since we're on a corner and we can disperse the parking both south and east. So that helps with eliminating, like a large area of asphalt. I think we've added some, and maybe Mark, our architect, can speak a little bit more eloquently than me on some of the architectural features we've done over the past year, but I think we still have yet to go our signage approvals. And we still have to, I think there's some, some ordinance check and perhaps some BZA process to go through with our signs.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, we're obviously looking at a development here that is going to probably anchor that corner for the next 30, 50 years, easily. And I want to make sure we get it right. Yeah. Meier's not going anywhere. We all know that, so we want to make sure we get this right. Thanks.
Thank you. I would wanted to just touch on what Ms. Budinsky said. We've had to, due to supply chain demands and supply chain disruption, we've had to go ahead and order like transformers for looking out 3-4 years, because to get a transformer in today's world, it takes about 58 weeks. So we've ordered a new transformer for this site. If we don't use it, we'll use it on another store, but it's in storage right now. So we've had to do some pre-active things to secure circuitry, power boards, transformers, all those things that we work in. We have probably over 100 stores in DTE's territory, so we have an account representative with DTE, so we're working through our future needs with DTE almost on a daily basis.
Thank you, sir. And what was your name, just for the record, what's your name?
Sorry, I'm Chris Jones. I'm Senior Real Estate Manager for Meijer.
Thank you,
and
sir.
I'm from Grand Rapids. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Councilman Donovan.
Thanks, Mr. President. I appreciate it. To either the Shostak or the architect, how much impervious surface, I think I was trying to review some of the notes from the Planning Commission. Is there a decrease of impervious surfaces here now? And I asked that question because I know there's a significant amount of landscape that's been added to the entire site itself. And I know there's been some questions about utilities and stormwater and what have you. So I wanted to kind of get an idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, so currently the existing site is 91% impervious surface, and we are dropping to between the multifamily and the Meijer to 76%.
Okay, that's good to know. I know there's been some discussion about the walls and the loading docks and the proximity to the residents. I appreciate you trying to move that building, shift it as far south as possible, but I understand there's limitations with parking and just the building envelope requirements. Can you explain what those walls are? I don't think I've dealt with the council that we've dealt with those sound walls, and it sounds like they were pretty tall. What kind of material are those made up of? It was just your typical masonry walls? They can be consistent material with the material on the building? Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, they're precast tilt-up walls with a brick form liner in them, so they have a brick texture to the face of them.
And the idea that it's just supposed to contain the noise in the loading dock areas?
Correct.
And Is it normal? Is that more of a new requirement? Because I mean, I've driven by a lot of different stores in our community. I haven't seen those large walls. Is that like a newer requirement nowadays, or something that petitioners are doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's to comply with the ordinance. There's a very strict sound ordinance here in Livonia, and it's to comply with that. Obviously, different cities have different requirements, so that's probably why you see some stores don't have it. If you're backing up to commercial, obviously that's a different issue than when it's single family.
Okay, so there's a total of 3 walls. There's the wall farthest north next to the residence. There's a second wall next to the grass area, separating the grass and the asphalt area. And then there's also the walls next to the loading dock.
Correct.
And that middle wall where the grass is, what kind of material is that? How tall is that? What kind of wall is that? That middle wall right there?
The one that...
Yep, that one right there.
That's precast.
That's the precast sound wall.
Correct.
And then the other walls in the loading dock, what are those walls?
Precast as well.
Okay. And how tall each one of those different walls?
Those ones are, I believe, 12 feet and 14 feet. The east one's 12, the west one's 14.
Okay. And then I know we touched a little bit, and I'm not trying to bounce around, maybe you're not the person to talk about traffic signals.
Name and address for the record, if we could.
Kyle Rietzma, I'm with Fishbeck, 1515 Arboretum, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49546.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening, sir. Can you explain, I know you guys sent a follow-up letter to us to kind of confirm what we were asking of you. I like what the Planning Commission did. I think that, there's been a number of concerns. I think municipalities are adding a lot of traffic signals, and I think it causes more congestion. However, I'm not a traffic expert, and I believe that Wayne County would supersede us regardless. Even if we said we want a light or don't want a light, I think ultimately Wayne County has that decision. And I've learned that recently with entrances to some of these developments we've done. We can do whatever we think is best, but ultimately Wayne County will make that decision. If we impose, if this continues the way it is, right, we're not imposing a traffic signal there, installing one over there, can you guys still fix the timing that we mentioned, the corner and the gill, or how does that work? I think there was some discussion about adjusting timing on the existing traffic signals.
So there were adjustments to the traffic signal timings at 7 Mile in Farmington and 7 Mile at Gill to optimize traffic on 7 Mile through there.
Okay.
Help with progression, create gaps. Farmington, obviously that's a little bit different, but you could also, the optimization of the signal there at 7 in Farmington could still be done.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that's regardless of the new signal.
Awesome, because I think that's a concern that residents have had is that traffic signal. And from some initial conversations, it sounds like it helps out Meyer with some of their traffic flowing in and out maybe, but I also have to be sensitive to the concerns of our residents. And I think that this is a nice project. I'd hate to see it get hung up on a traffic signal, to be quite frank with you. But it is important to our residents that travel up and down Farmington, as you know, as a traffic engineer, many times a day. But I was hoping that we would still see the traffic signal improvements on that corner of 7 Mile and Farmington, regardless if that northern traffic signal was installed. I think that's it for now, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Budzinski.
Okay, I have a few things, and I bounce around kind of like Rob did in terms of who should speak on them. So in our previous meeting, we learned, or some of us learned, about a monorail plan up in along Farmington back in the day. And, well, it sounds kind of silly. It's because Farmington is really a central road in our city. I think where most of our kind of commercial hubs, 5 in Farmington, Plymouth in Farmington, and 7 in Farmington, they're really identifying features. And so to concur with Vice President Tashnik, I think the presence and the look of the Meijer is really important because it will be a defining feature of one of our, most trafficked, areas in our community. And it will be there for a long time. And we want to make sure that it looks right and that it's branded right. Again, the Woodward Market, East Jefferson, I can't remember what it's called in Grand Rapids off my head, but those are defined for the areas that they're in, and I think we deserve to have that too here in Livonia. So that's kind of more of my
Very quickly, on our design, we took we call it Rivertown, which is our downtown Detroit story, which is relatively new, and it kind of serves like a food desert area for the city of Detroit. Our inspiration for the changes that we've made over the past year came directly from that store, because we heard that as well in different work sessions. They liked what we had done in Royal Oak and at Rivertown. So we picked up some identical elements from Rivertown and incorporated into this building.
And that's what, we're hoping to see too, so thank you. And then my next ones are for the townhouses and materials for those units. What's the percentage of brick for unit?
And we're doing this on purpose, so you guys have to get out.
Get your steps in.
So on if we take the 3-story that's facing 7 Mile and the Meyer parking lot, the facades that are facing those, you are roughly 40%. On the rear of the building, on those, you're also about 40%, because there's areas that are going up 2 stories there. On the 2-story product, on the rear with the garages, we're about 60% brick there. On the front, we're probably back down to about 40%.
Okay, and how does that compare to other projects that you guys have done in surrounding communities?
To be honest with you, I've done ones that are 100% sided and no masonry on them. Typically, what we're doing is first floor is brick, and then from there on out, depending on what style we're trying to mimic or go to, we'll determine if we're adding more brick or if we're doing siding and accents and bands and stuff like that.
Are these renderings the final, or are they more of just an impression of what you guys, we've had other developers come and say we've got, A, B, and C kind of themes, if you would. Is this specifically what you guys are looking to build, or is it more of a general idea?
No, it's vetted pretty extensively. So those renderings are very accurate.
Okay. And I thought Rob was going to ask about this, but I will ask about it instead. The trash cans for these units, I think I noted about 3 maybe. Those look like it.
Don't answer that question, that's mine.
Yeah, we have 2 locations for the townhomes, north of Building K, where Mr. Termina is circling, and then the north west of Building B there.
All right. And it would be picked up weekly then?
It depends on use. Typically, it's 2 to 3 times a week, depending on demand.
You're more the trash expert, so if you have follow-ups.
Good. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Toy, then Councilman Donovan.
Thank you. If I may, sir, and maybe this is to the Chris Jones, the Myers representative. Sir, will you be having an outdoor landscaping area on this as well? Where you know what I mean?
An outdoor landscaping area?
Yeah.
We've identified 3 areas that maybe Mark can point to them. There's the one at the corner of Farmington and 7 Mile.
No, I'm sorry, in the store that you're selling, the goods. Landscaping materials and things.
No, ma'am.
No, okay.
This is strictly grocery.
Groceries, okay.
And I should add to that, grocery, pharmacy, health, beauty, cosmetics, pet. But this store is really designed for to serve a family and to serve a family's daily needs.
Sure.
And so it's essentially taken the grocery, the pharmacy area out of our supercenter and putting it into a smaller store.
Okay.
But the grocery is about 55,000 square feet of this store, of 75,000 square feet.
So Royal Oak would be a good store for me to go view a little bit,
Royal Oak's
right?
slightly smaller.
Okay.
I'd say the best representation would be Macomb or Lake Orion. I know they're a little further away, but would be the closest store to this.
And then as we used to call the West Siders God's country, I could always go up to too in Grand Rapids, right?
We don't have one like this in Grand Rapids.
No, I heard it's really nice up in
Well, we
Grand
did
Rapids,
a store in Grand Rapids, and
Yeah.
Grand Rapids is very nice. Thank you. But we did a smaller store in Grand Rapids downtown and built some apartments above it.
Oh, nice, okay. All right, and sir, are you gonna need, are you gonna have liquor in this store, or beer or wine, as far as an SDM license?
We will need an SDM, but it'll be for beer and wine only.
Just beer
And
and
it'll
wine.
be for off-premises consumption.
Okay,
And we had that in front of the planning commission, I believe on the 30th.
okay. And, hopefully they'll have a full board.
Right. No liquor though.
Yes, okay, thank you. And also, were you able to go and speak to any of the neighbors that surround the area?
We did.
You or whoever?
Yeah, Shostak put on a neighborhood meeting. I think we invited anyone that had spoken against the project or anybody that joined the project with the property boundary, anybody that had written a letter. Maybe even you broadened it out, because I know we had about 250 attendees.
Good.
Shostak did it at Winter Tavern? Winter Garden Tavern? Yeah, sorry. But right across from the site, right at the corner, the opposite corner. I think we did, we had quite a few people come through. We did, phone boards and let them ask questions. I myself attended. Jeffrey, David, I think our traffic engineer was there, and so was our architect.
Great, great. That's always good to hear.
Yep, we
Yes,
did.
appreciate that. Thank
And
you, Mr.
I think
Shostak.
it went for 3 or 4 hours.
Super, super good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Back to the architect, if you want to come on up. I do appreciate you guys answering questions. As you can imagine, a lot of them come from the residents and just our own experience. When we talk about, and Councilman Bazinski touched on it, the material on the townhomes, I'm happy to see that there's a large portion of it is brick. Those are significant numbers for masonry products. Can you explain the remainder of the product that's not vinyl siding?
Correct. So it's a cement board product, which is a high-end residential siding. So it's durable, takes paint, holds paint, doesn't dent, doesn't crack like vinyl or aluminum would. And then our trim is wrapped in aluminum, so it's maintenance-free.
Because this product kind of reminds me of 6 Mile in Farmington, those brownstone fields. Over at 7 and Newburgh area, more brownstone fields, those townhomes, as opposed to the first rendition you brought to us, which wasn't bad. I just didn't feel like it was Livonia. And I wanted, me personally, from one council's perspective, is more of that home feel. And I think when we talk about the 2 stories, they're roughly 27 feet tall. I think those are fairly comparable to existing colonials, because I just don't want the existing homes that abut this project to be looking up into a 3 or 4 story tall building. So I thought that was very sensible of you guys to make sure that the 2 stories are abutting the project. And I'm okay with the 3 story along Farmington, because you look at the breakdown of proposed, these are 15 units per acre when we allow a maximum of 20. So even then, you could have pushed the envelope more, and I'm happy you didn't. I'm happy there's a lot of green space here. I'm happy that there's not parking garages. I didn't want parking garages. I like the fact that these are going to be enclosed garages. Again, I think it plays to the harmonious feel of residential. It plays to a more expensive product, and with this being a majority of brick and stone material and hardy board or cement siding material, naturally you're gonna have more investment here. I think that's what a lot of us are talking about, is making sure that you're investing in this corner. It is an important corner to us. It's been vacant for a number of years. It's got a long history here, and I understand that some residents are going to have concerns about traffic. My concerns, from my perspective, is I'd much rather have more congestion as a metropolitan area than a vacant area. I don't want this building continue to sit vacant for another 10 years. I've driven up and down Farmington and 7 Mile for forever now, and it's always sat in this dilapidated condition. So I think this is a huge improvement. I do understand there's still some concerns with the mire and signage and some things I think we're going to try to hash out more tonight. But can you talk about, back to the mire, for the architect, the bollards that are along the sidewalk, are those going to be those traditional poles, I think is what you guys have proposed right now? Along the sidewalk area in front of the Meijer, is that what I saw on the plans?
Yeah, you'll see some bollards along that area.
There you go, right there, yeah.
It's kind of like, protection
Sure.
from pedestrians and motorists.
Yeah.
And, we're fortunate enough to be of a size where we can self-insure. But a lot of our reinsurance requirements call for a certain number of bollards. We are flexible as to like color. We do them in all different colors, stainless steel.
I'm happy to hear you say
yeah.
that, because I'd like to see, as council continues to kind of explain some reservations of the homingness feeling, lack of a better term, for the Meijer, I think you could do some improvements there. I've seen Meijer, for Target, for example, they do decorative bollards, and they're round, or they're a little bit different. So I think that would kind of play into what council's looking for, as opposed to just the poles that are kind of sticking out of the ground.
I think as long as we can maintain enough, for ADA accessible and two carts, and, we can, as long as there's a bollard that protects pedestrians from motor vehicles, we're not particularly, married to a particular size or shape.
I think that'd be a vast improvement. And then when we talk about the parking lot area right now, if you drive through the parking lot, it's pretty rough. Are you proposing, since you're going to be adding underground detention, I'm sure that you're going to be redoing the entire parking lot?
Yeah, everything's coming out
Great.
at the existing center, right down to the foundations.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anything further from council with the petitioner? I'm going to move to the audience now. Thank you guys very much. After this, I'm sure we'll have you do the pop-up seat thing. So audience, if you would like to speak on this matter, please make your way to the podiums, name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak on the item. And feel free to come on up. Good evening again.
Good evening again. Yes, Jenny Krenz, 34075 Pembroke. I'm looking at that, and I see that there is only one drive into the complex of 192 homes. Has the fire department approved that? Because it looks very tight to me, like there should be an entrance in the back along the berm there, but I see that as a problem. Mr. Jones, or one of you gentlemen, I live at 7 Mile in Farmington, and let me tell you, at 9 o'clock at night, 7 Mile in Farmington is asleep. We do not need a store to be open until midnight. Also, keep in mind that this is Livonia. Our council has given you some very nice suggestions. This is not Detroit. It is not Grand Rapids. It's not Lansing. It is Livonia. This is a neighborhood. This is a community, residential, 100%. The apartments, the rent, $2,500 for a 2-bed, 1,000 square foot, concerns me. That is a lot of money, and that is just for the 2 beds. I don't know what the 3-story, 3-bed one is. People are having a hard enough time paying rent anywhere. For this part of Livonia, which is a lovely part of Livonia, I can't see you drawing enough people to rent all those units at that price. So then it makes me wonder, will there be at any time subsidized housing for those units? If the economy tanks and you've got a lot of vacant buildings, will there be an incentive subsidizing to get tenants in there?
And that's
again,
time, ma'am. Sorry.
Oh,
to get the-
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Name and address?
Chris Beers, 19448 Stamford. I live in Windward Village. I think we all know that something needs to be done there, but I think we all know that we have enough grocery stores, liquor license, all that going through there. No matter what you do with your stoplights, getting people coming and going, stopping the traffic, they're still going to be coming in and out of those stores, coming in and out of the apartment complexes. There is going to be accidents. There is going to be a death. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and we all know it. We have an aging population. It's tough to drive down 7 Mile. 7 Mile is like a road in Beirut right now, as it is, which whoever did that should be ashamed of themselves anyway. But, I mean, I understand that they're trying to do something, but I went to the meeting that they had at Winter Garden, and I made suggestions, and I heard other people make suggestions, and I haven't seen many of those changes come from them. I mean, I'm going to be the one in the very back where I get to look at the apartment complexes, the wall, the dumpsters. That's where my house is. I put an addition on my house. I made it nice for my family, and the only thing that it's going to do is going to drive my value down, I feel. I asked them to put the garbage and everything on the Farmington Road side and where the McDonald's is, since that's all commercial. Why do I have to have the trucks coming back where all the residential homes are? You know, there's no reason that they couldn't put access to load off of Farmington. They're already going to put a light there so the trucks can come and go there. They should have room to be able to back in and load from that side. And then today, somebody asked a question about the berm. There's a berm on 7 Mile for sound barrier possibly, but where my house is, I have a wall that in my backyard is to my belly button. And they're proposing 7-foot trees or 6-foot trees.
Sir, that's time.
Where I'm only going to see that much of the top of the trees.
Well, thank you for coming out. Good evening.
Hi, Aaron Frazier, 19418 Norwich Road. I live in Windridge also. I just have some concerns about utilities, infrastructure. Currently, we have problems with our utilities. We currently lose power maybe once a month. It could be a sunny day and we'll lose power. We have a small grid that runs basically down Norwich along Stamford that loses power. It doesn't matter if the wind blows. We have a heavy storm. Our neighbors to each side, 5 neighbors on each side, have invested in home generators, and we all have currently portable generators. I'd like to see what the Myers is going to coordinate with DTE to try to fix that problem.
Sir, please direct your comments here. No, you're fine. Thank you. No, you're good.
I also would like to find out, we also have low water pressure in our sub. With the added of 102 apartment buildings, how is that going to affect the water pressure? And also, we also have problems at 7 Mile, if you've driven down 7 Mile lately, hasn't been addressed. It's been torn up for years. I know it belongs to Wayne County, but I'd like to see something done before they basically add more traffic onto that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Christina Rogers, 33782 Breton Drive. One of the things I saw from the planning committee is that they had approved it to come to this next meeting, but with modifications. One of those was the brick, as you guys had discussed a bit. Some of the commentary back that we've heard tonight, I feel like are kind of skirting around the answers. I think there is a personal responsibility of the community to say, yes, concrete is cheaper, it's new age, right? But it's not nicer. It's not the area we live in. It does need to be a little something more. And it was brought up, their profits over the long term will easily be able to cover stuff like that, making it a little nicer. The other thing that I just wanted to point out is that the market, I'm fearful, will kind of overshadow our Wine Castle, our Joe's Produce, the small things that I enjoy about our community and that I appreciate about our community as being large, huge stores like Kroger, but also having those small stores. And we're calling it a neighborhood market, but it's also the exact same size as the massive Kroger we already have. So a smaller market, okay, but it's not a smaller market. It is still a massive supermarket that I can wear my watch and get my steps in. So thank you for your time. I would like to just see more of our neighborhood in the, thank you.
I appreciate you coming out. Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Phil Kwirschka, 34775 Pembroke. I don't live directly in the area, but I've been, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I've heard all negative things. I like to say some positive things about it. Jotted some things down. I think my impression is that it's a low-key proposal, that it's not going to cause a lot of commotion in the area. I think the way that the residential area was set up it creates ownership, and I think that tends to promote the responsible residents within the area. This thing's been vacant for, 20 years, I think, something like that. And I think it was a solution area that was looking for a problem, and finally got a solution for the deterioration of the Kmart's I think is something that finally there's going to be a resolution for. You drive past this area, and I think anything that you put in there is going to be an improvement. I think one of the things I notice about the Kmart area is the lack of vandalism in that area. And I think that's really a testament to the safety of Livonia. But I think eventually that's not going to be the case. Eventually there's going to be some vandalism going on, and I think we have to do something positive, and I think this is a positive solution. I like the idea of a convenience store.
Sir, that's time. That's the 2 minutes. But thank you for coming up and giving those great ideas.
I got more, but
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council. Roger Stacy, 19474 Pollyanna Drive. My street abuts the development. As I generally say, the devil's in the details. Several things I noticed in the presentation. Is the 20-foot high sound wall, I know it's going to be brick relief, is it going to be painted? Or colorized concrete going to be used to soften the impact of it? Lead into the apartment complex. There is no deceleration lane to allow the traffic to turn in. There is one lead into the Meyer site, but not to the apartment site. Thirdly, berms, I'd eliminate them completely, at least along 7 Mile and Farmington, because sight lines are critical. You can have children in this apartment complex and be bicycles going up and down the street now, and people have a tendency to just look beyond the sidewalk to traffic coming the other way, and they completely ignore any traffic or anybody on the sidewalk. That's it. Those are my observations.
It's a great idea, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How are you?
Hi, Andrew Midas, 34008 Fairfax. I live in that neighborhood behind the Kmart. Vision for Livonia that you guys have published. I think if you look at that document and you look at what's being proposed here, you don't have a mesh. I think it's great that we have an interested party, but I think if you look at the size of this development, the grocery store alone is twice as big as Joe's Produce. Joe's Produce can make it. They can stay profitable. Why do we need something that, and I think you're right, Councilwoman, that this is basically a mini big box store? I just don't see the need for it. I think, my other concern is that we've talked about a smaller store in the planning sessions, and Meyer has always said, we can't make that work. We can't make that work. Well, maybe this isn't the right site for them. Livonia has a ton of grocery stores. We don't necessarily need more. We have an opportunity for the right kind of grocery store that wants to work with us, not shoehorn us into making us work with them. And, I'm concerned about the size of the store in Myers and what it might do for small businesses like Joe's Produce, who, they've been around since the 60s. I remember they were going shucking corn and they had, sand floor, and they built upon that slowly. I don't want to see them go out of business or be impacted. They have a lot of people who are Livonia residents working there, and they provide good benefits and good wage for those people. And then I'm also concerned about the traffic study, because I've heard in a planning session, they asked specifically, have you done a traffic study for the Windridge Village subdivision? And they said, no, we didn't do that traffic study. So while we hear now that, oh, we can modify the lights and make the timing optimal, what does optimal really mean? And how is that going to impact my residents, you know, the people in my neighborhood, the residents there? We don't know right now. We don't have any specifics. So it's like, you know, my neighbor said, devil's in the details. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Again, Kathleen McIntyre, Fairway Street, Livonia. I laud all the work that's been done by everyone in getting this project to where it is. The vacant property, the decaying parking lot, the buildings falling into a terrible condition. This needed something, and so thank you to the Showstacks and Myers and the developers of the townhouses. This is going to be a big improvement. The sign is really the problem, and we've heard a lot about the Royal Oak Market, the Detroit Market, the Grand Rapids Market. All of those communities have been honored, if you will, with something that looks like a market. And if you look at the signage, and I heard that Meyer took the best ideas from the Jefferson, or took, I think they said, took all the best ideas and put them into the Jefferson store. It has signage like the Royal Oak and the Grand Rapids does. And we hear a lot from the mayor and others about a community that our children want to come home to, having a good, robust development with places to live and places to shop. That builds community. Having a Meijer that looks like a big box does not create a reason for our children to want to come home to this community. So I would ask the council to really consider, and also I know I'm getting close on time, there was discussion in the Planning Commission about upgrading the material similar to what's required in Bloomfield Township and some other communities, and I'm not clear trying to pay attention on what, or I've been trying to pay attention as to what changes have been made to the external materials of the Meijer, and I'm not sure if all the suggestions from the Planning Commission were addressed in upgrading some of that material. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the, oh, here we go. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Carol Smiley. I live in Windridge Village at 19862 Stamford. And I'm here this evening because we spent a lot of time, money, and effort developing a Vision 21 master plan for the land use, transportation, neighborhood, and infrastructure and open space to secure Livonia for the next 100 years. I'd like to see us work towards that. I don't believe that this meets those needs or that plan. A big box grocery store and an apartment structure doesn't meet neither one of those. The only thing we need less than that is another liquor license in that area. I'm disappointed in it. I'm going to tell you right now, I probably don't have a dog in the race anymore because I have a 4-bedroom home and I won't be there much longer. So I hate to move out of Livonia. I hate to see this left. I've been here for 52 years, and I would like you to offer the opportunity to the Showstack brothers that they follow their values to enhance and promote the community, be creative and innovative, be flexible and adaptable, and seize an opportunity. You have 16.4 acres, and what you don't need is another sea of asphalt and a big box store, or any more apartments for that matter. I spent the early part of the day at the Livonia Early Childhood Center. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see that, but there's 77,000 square feet that are being put to good use. You might want to take a look. Thank you.
Thank you. Uh-oh. Good evening, sir.
Uh-oh. Haven't heard that in a while. 33461 Capri Court, John Pastor. I look at this project and all that stuff. I really believe these should be townhomes, not apartments. Let's call it what it is. They're calling them townhomes. They're really apartments. We don't need any more apartments in here. The property values and all that stuff of those homes behind there are going to be better off if they're townhomes. I think you should also look at the setback requirements. I mean, heck, some of our residential lots are 50-foot and greater setbacks, especially for the residents back there. I think you need to look at the building materials hardy siding isn't the best product and all that stuff. And if you look at the ones at 6th and Farmington and the other condos like that, we're all brick, limestone and all that stuff. That's what Livonia more basically is all about. So I think you need to look at that. Also at the Myers too, make sure that it isn't an impression concrete that looks like brick and block, that it's actually brick and block. And if you look at the Vision 21, heck, my little half-acre site across the street, the planning commission made me try to bring those buildings right up to the front corner and all that stuff to make it look like that. This is nowhere near what the planning commission, so I don't know what they were thinking on my project as opposed to this project. So just keep that in mind. I think you should probably go to the committee and, maybe address some of these concerns of the residents.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. Good evening, Mr. King.
Hey, nice to see you all again. A couple of positive things. The plan is changing. It's getting better, and I appreciate the petitioner moving. He's changing some things to the positive. I love the idea of the electric trucks because diesels, I know I drive a diesel car and diesel exhaust. If you've ever been at an elementary school and the buses pull up, it smells pretty bad. So, and that, travels a long distance. The precast walls are very, very ugly. I know that's what they do now. They don't build block walls. But if you've ever been to Arizona, the precast walls they use out there in their developments are actually beautiful. They're works of art. The other thing is the Guy Fieri Chicken Guy restaurant, less than a year, has closed. And it closed for one reason, saturation. So I think this project is going to get massaged enough that it's going to be approved. But we know it's going to affect, there's a saturation point in any business model, and it's going to affect somebody that's in that business. But it's moving in the right direction, and I agree with Rob, that corner, empty forever, it's got to go. And I agree with John especially, no apartments, condos, townhouses. We don't want transients, we want community citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any more audience communication? Seeing none, I'm going to jump back to council, and if council's okay, I do have a few talking notes that I'd like to jump into just before they get too long, and I've got to talk more than Mr. Donovic, but that's okay. I'm wondering if the architect, I think most of those are probably going to be for you on this one. I'm going to start off. Obviously, one of the residents brought up the fire sign off. I think I can answer this. Just as in any, and this kind of goes with the whole engineering and stormwater management. The requirements from energy codes to building codes, for anybody that doesn't know, they're stringent. So there's a lot of process and engineering work that goes into these and calculations. And basically, if any of you guys heard what someone said, there's really no stormwater management plan on the site right now. So all of that water, instead of going into being reclaimed or anything, is just going right off the site. So, if we're talking sustainability, it's not sustainable. It's been sitting there. That's the one question I do have. The second question, and I think they're on there, but I just want it to be on record. We are putting charging stations for EV vehicles, just like some of the other stores you guys have, or is that not in this plan?
Well, we've designated an area for EV charging stations. We typically designate about 7. We have a national license with Tesla, but we also do some data mining, and we talk to our friends at Ford and GM and look at the number of electrical vehicles that are bought in the market to help us determine if there's a need for EV stations. So I can't promise those, but if there's a need, we address it.
I'll tell you this, just being someone that is in the market, that what I find, if you don't have a Tesla, that any of the Meyer stations, even the one at 7 Mile, half of them don't work. They're under complete maintenance. But I can tell you one thing that the synergy that kind of blew my mind jump into the EV game is, I'm stopping there to charge and I'm going to go spend money into
Right.
wherever puts them there. So that synergy is there. I would
Right.
like to see them in there. Obviously, you have it. I'm not going to put a requirement on it, but
Yeah, we'd like to see them there as well. I mean, we see this, a similar thing. We actually, you can only, I mean, we've been doing it at this for 90 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we film, what passengers of those cars are doing while they're in their car, while they're charging, where they go into the store, how much time they spend in the store.
just let me know. I'll smile and
How much they spend in the store, we could tell you.
No, that's great. Second question. So we brought up the lighting, and I think obviously a lot of the new lighting that's out there. If anybody's heard of the dark sky compliance, basically they're shields that just allow ambient light not to go up. I think those are basically standard in every store that you guys are doing. I'm trying to highlight the fact that
They're
obviously.
they're prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, they're going to have shields, so any kind of ambient light, it's not going to go off into the neighborhoods or anything like that. So the concerns are there.
They're zero lot line.
And I love the
LED.
idea. I was going to bring it up about the timing. The lighting controls these days are so expensive and unique and innovative that you can set them at 1 o'clock to go down 30 lumens. If that could be incorporated in the plan, I think it's a good
standard
gesture.
procedure.
Perfect. I know that looking at that monument at 7, right at the corner, right? So this has been kind of an interesting site. Obviously, even since my mom worked at the Ponderosa site when she was in high school, all right? So she should date that. And I think that might be the last time the site's even been there. That was about 10 years ago, so put that in perspective. But no, I mean, it's been a dilapidated area. And, more and more you think about what the synergies could be around in the area. And I've heard things about master planning the entire 7 Mile. I know that this was, at some point, there was a charge to make this a downtown. At least from what I see, is you're putting, 100 units. I think it charges the area up. I do. I think it's different clientele between Joe's, and I think it's different clientele before Myers. Just different thing. I think putting people in this area is going to be beneficial for everybody around it. That's just my opinion. It's tough because you want, I try to put myself, hey, if I lived behind there, if I lived in that unit, would I want to live there? And, over the last year, I do applaud you guys for making the changes you have, dropping some of those units down to 2-story, the lighting, the buffering. Back to the 7 in Farmington Corner, I think there's an opportunity to put some kind of a minor seating area, maybe a bike repair station, just to open it up. And I know it's your corner, but in theory, you're going to have 100 plus residents. Probably, I don't know what the amount the industry shows, but creating that environment, make it walkable all the way down to Joe's. Primo's Pizza is going to benefit. Someone brought up Wine Barrel on the corner. With you guys only doing beer and wine, you're going to have people in there that are going to go over there exclusively for any kind of liqueurs or liquor and that such. So I see that actually being a plus. This has been a site that I think everybody that lives in the city has complained about at some point, including myself. I live at 6 in Farmington. I drive by the site, and it kills me every time we look at it. The business owners at Winter Garden Tavern, they're begging for any kind of development. It's going to spirit. I think that this is potentially, as long as we can work out some of these kinks, could be a really good project for the area. Let me see here. The one other question, this is more for the townhomes. Can they be separately metered? So the reason I bring this up is I worked in multifamily many, many moons ago, and I always know that right now we've got housing stock that no one can move out of because interest rates are through the roof, and taxes, no one wants to uncap their taxes. We have seniors, that are sitting there waiting to sell their homes. Kids have moved on, and they're looking to downsize, but they can't get out of the market. Now, when the housing market, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but when the housing market's very plentiful, then the apartments and the rent become a little bit kind of synergy back down on that. So my question is down the line, which is a lot of people brought up, is the condo aspect. Say 3-4 years that the housing market, there's a lot of supply, and these want to be converted to condos. How feasible is that in the current state?
Well, they're all individually metered.
Okay.
So you get a bill from DTE, you get a bill from consumers. Water, there's a house meter that comes out of that, and there's a third party that meters that and then bills the resident for that. So they're all individually metered.
So in theory, down the line, You guys, it's not profitable from that standpoint. People are bringing up subsidies or lower income homes. These can be, someone could take the development and convert them easily to condos, if I'm right.
Could be possible, yeah.
Okay. That answers my questions for right now. I'm going to open it back up to my council colleagues. Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know there were some comments, and I'm hoping you guys can respond to them from the residents. These are not low income or any sort of subsidized housing, and the city of Livonia is not subsidizing any of this project.
That is correct.
And correct for Meyer. I think it's fair to say they're market rate multifamily.
Yeah, because I know in today's world of market, the 102 townhomes, I know to some it may seem like a lot of money a month in rent, but take it from someone that has a lot of friends that spend $2,000 to $3,000 a month for apartments. It's just a reality. I think it's crazy, but they wouldn't be proposing to build it if that wasn't the market rate for rent. So I know that was touched on earlier, but I just do want to say this is not the first time council has spoken to petitioners that have done that, and I know there's a few different projects in our city right now that are getting that money per month, and we don't have any jurisdiction over that. Now, maybe to our attorney, I don't know that we don't really have the authority to impose whether they want to rent their units or sell their units as homes, right?
Correct.
So they are proposing to rent it as townhomes. We as a city council cannot say you cannot rent your home. Similarly with your homes, the city council cannot say you can't rent your home. If you want to rent it, you can rent it. Now, there's certain regulations that you have to follow now when it is a rental, but we can't impose that. Similarly, it kind of gets a little tough when we want to say we don't want any more markets. Personally, I don't want another market. I do not want another market. But the reality is that that's what they're proposing. And it's already an existing building. And technically speaking, as we heard from earlier, they could have a right to just operate in the existing space with some renovations and operate a market. And there's a considerably more amount of asphalt and impervious surface there right now, and I do not want to see that happen. That's my fear if this council denies this. Ultimately, what they're probably going to do, and I don't mean to speak for them, is they're going to say, fine, we're going to just stick Meyer in the existing building, we'll do some touch-ups, we'll go through the council process, and then we're just going to have an old building with a facelift that ultimately is still a Meyer. And I think the project that we're currently getting is a much better usage long-term. I do think there's still a lot of questions to be asked by the council, and it is late, and we are on item number 7 of 16, I believe. I do think you guys have some homework. I think we're getting closer. I think the townhomes are just spot on. You guys have done a wonderful job with the townhomes. I think you've done okay with the Meyer. I think there's movement there. I think that some of my colleagues have explained some concerns. I'm not so concerned with the material. I think we see the examples right there. That's brick. I know there's some modernization of the materials that are used nowadays, but that's brick. If you're not an expert in construction, you're not going to know that that's a brick implanted into a masonry wall, but it's masonry, and I'm okay with that. I do think there's some concerns about berms. I think there's concerns about signage. I think there may be some more movement again on that Meyer to see what you guys can do. So I'm going to offer a committee the whole motion, and for the residents that don't know that, what that means is we're going to have another meeting on this if the council is okay with that. I guess procedure, my question is, do we have to vote on it at the next regular, or is there a way just to go straight to?
We have to vote at the regular.
We got to vote.
Is there any way, and indulge me, if we can table this to the next study?
For what purpose?
To kind of speed this up a little bit so we don't have to take more votes, and just kind of, I want to keep on talking about this. Or is it cleaner just to go to committee?
We have to go. We have to vote to go to committee.
Okay, thank you to our parliamentarian.
Do you want to keep that motion there to put it in committee of all?
Yes.
For sake of interested parties not coming, we could put that on the consent agenda so that they know that no substantive business will be discussed at the voting meeting to send it to committee, and then notice the meeting from there.
Yeah.
That would be more straightforward for people's time. And can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Real quick? I recognize that we're going to committee here. There's just a couple things that I would like to ask, just because we do have some interested parties here. I don't think this is the case, but for Meyer and for the Showstack development, are you are you willing to publicly commit that you will not seek any kind of tax abatement or brownfield redevelopment funds in regards to these projects? And I only bring that up because, I mean, that hasn't come up to this point, but we have had areas in the city where we have had a development that seemed, I mean, I hate to say this, two handfuls probably of developments that seemed like they were great, and then they come back after we've approved everything, and they say, oh, we need tax abatements to get this done. We need brownfield authority, the environmentals turned out a certain way, and then all of a sudden the community is subsidizing through tax dollars of development. Is there any plan to, or is there any circumstance in which there might be tax abatement or public dollars going to finesse the development?
I can say we've done an ESA Phase 1, we've done an ESA Phase 2, we've done a hazmat study on the building. There are no extraordinary brownfield expenses related to the existing existing buildings that are on the site. You know, I don't foresee Meyer asking, I can't speak for Showstack, but I don't foresee Meyer seeking any tax abatement or brownfield funds for this project. We've got limited right-of-way to work in. You know, we are certainly as concerned about getting our customers in and out as safely as possible, as well as citizens. We want the access to work. If it means paying for a traffic signal, then we're prepared to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shostak, I think he's going to answer, and I got one other comment.
Jeff Shostak, 17800 North Lowell Park Drive, Livonia. Councilman Jolly, you are correct. This is completely privately funded. We're not asking for anything. I'd like to note that it's a $60 million plus development, and just addressing some of the different comments from some of the council real briefly, or some of the residents, is, you know, we've been on this for at least a year, but obviously there was items prior to that. But, you know, we conducted market studies. You know, these rents, we didn't just pull them out of thin air. That's not what we do. These are national companies that come up with market studies that tell us that this is the rent that you can get. And bear in mind, it's a couple years out by the time things are built. So we've done a lot of homework on this. We've made a lot of changes. We've listened to you. We've listened to the residents. We're never going to make, obviously, everyone happy. I know we're making walls higher for people asked at some of the meeting, although that was not necessarily acknowledged, but it is what it is. We're trying to do everything we can to listen to you guys and do what we can here. But just to reiterate the final comment, privately funded, $60 million of economic development in Livonia. It's a big project, and we want to get it going. So.
Thank you, Mr. Shostak. So I didn't say much tonight, largely because I had an opportunity with a couple of my colleagues to participate in a rapid response meeting, and I think I brought up my concerns at that point. And I will say that there has been substantial movement in regards to the suggestions that were made during that meeting from the Shostak organization and also Meyer. And, you know, like people, you know, we've discussed this. We have plenty of grocery stores in Livonia. We have plenty of housing in Livonia. I think we have like 40,000 plus single-family homes in Livonia. We're looking to, well, we're evaluating in this proposal whether to put another grocery store and another set of housing. But the economic reality is those are probably the only two viable business developments going forward for the foreseeable future. Retail is largely dead. People need to live somewhere and people need to eat. If I was going to invest my money, it would probably be in those two areas, to be honest with you. So like my colleagues here, I think that there is some points to finesse. I think we have come a long way from what was initially proposed, and I thoroughly appreciate the proposals and the work that's been done in that direction. But again, this is a private development, and this is an area where to make it economically viable for the next 30 years. 30 years from now, no matter what happens with technology, whatever happens with the changing retail landscape, people will need to live somewhere and people will need to eat. That's not up for debate. So, I mean, I think that kind of softens the edges in regards to how I look at this. So looking forward to the committee. Thank you both for the work that you've done. Thank you to all the residents. We do hear what you're saying, and we have all collaborated in regards to those things. So thank you.
So we have a motion to send it to committee of a whole. Mr. Shostak, just a quick question. You can answer probably from there, but we'll get this on the books pretty quick if this is the way it goes. Set it up within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
It's on consent, Mr. Chair.
It is on consent right now.
Yes, so tell people not to show up for that. I mean, just so they don't wait.
Yeah, so for the general public, the committee of the whole, we are adding it to the consent agenda, which means it's all approved, all but assured to be approved. So you really don't have to come on that Monday. The committee of the whole meeting, you look at the council calendars coming up. We're going to try to get this thing on a committee meeting. It is open to the public. We'll probably do it in here. And probably next 3 to 4 weeks, it'll be scheduled. Any other questions? Petitioner, are you guys good? All right. Audience is good. Council's good. We have a motion. So we are now going to move on to item number 8. Where's everybody going?
Don't care about the competition. To bed.
Hey, we waited. Perfect timing. All right, so we're starting with number 8. It's a request to waive the sealed bid process and authorize the purchase of 3 marked and unmarked replacement police vehicles utilizing the State of Michigan cooperative bid pricing. This comes to us from the Division of Police. I'm just going to keep rolling for a matter of time because I think we all want to go home. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, President McCullough, members of the City Council. I'm Captain Josh Gilbert here on behalf of Chief Thomas Gorelski. Police Department requests the waiver of the sealed bid process to purchase 3 replacement vehicles utilizing the State of Michigan cooperative bid process. The proposed purchase is for the replacement of 3 police vehicles that were determined to be damaged beyond repair by our insurance carrier. The damaged vehicles will be sold as salvage by our insurance carrier, and the city will receive settlement on the insurance claim process for these vehicles. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Councilman Morgan.
Yep, and I'll offer an approving on consent. Thank you.
Mr. President, I don't think it should be that easy.
Yeah.
Got a few
I
questions.
think it should be.
I think it should
This
be.
is-
Sir, I do.
This is coming from the police department. It should be granted. That's it. End of
Councilman
story.
Donovic wants the floor.
Sir, what color are these cars?
I'm sorry?
What color are these vehicles? The color, make, and model, please.
Yet to be determined.
Hey, he's only one vote, all right?
Okay, well, it's nice to see you, sir.
It's always good to see you, Councilman.
It's always good to be seen.
See him on the road, will you?
Mr. Derek, real quick.
Vice President.
Thank you. All kidding aside, but not really. We were told to heckle you tonight, Captain, so I apologize for my colleague up front.
That's okay. I'll deal with that later.
Real quick, it looks like we're getting a Charger. I'm assuming that's for patrol. I really was curious. What is the Wagoneer used for, typically?
These vehicles are both used as marked and unmarked vehicles in different investigative purposes.
I was just curious, but yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, you have an approval on consent, thanks to Mr. Morgan. So
Yeah, no,
if
no,
you
no,
want
please.
to, if you want to come back to do something, Mr. Donovic, you can. If not, just do it.
I'll be waiting outside.
Good to see you.
Good to see all of you. Thank you.
Do we have any audience comments on that? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 9, which is a request for council approval on a proposed lot split. This comes to us from the Department of Assessment for the property located on the south of 8 Mile Road, west of Newburgh and east of 275, to waive the deficiency in lot area requirements relative to parcels A and B. And it's showing, I did announce we do have new data from resident responses. Who's taking this one, Mr. Cormina?
Yes. So this is a lot split request. The property is located at the corner of Meadowview and 8 Mile. This property is just over an acre in size, 44,000 square feet. It's zoned RUF. RUF requires minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet, lot width of 75 feet, a lot depth of 150 feet. The 3 parcels proposed here, A and B, would each measure 75 by 156 for 11,700 square feet. So they meet the minimum lot width requirement. They meet the minimum lot depth requirement. However, it fails to meet the minimum lot area requirement. And so that applies to parcels A and B, these 2 northern lots. The parcel C, the southern lot, is 20,900 square feet. It measures 134 feet by 156 feet. So that does comply from an area standpoint. What's unique about this parcel C is it has very narrow frontage. This is It's an unusually shaped parcel. It's not part of this subdivision. You can see it doesn't have full frontage on Meadowview because of the location of this lot here. So this parcel C would gain access from Meadowview from about 26 feet of frontage located here.
Thank you, Mr. Termina. Council?
Mr. Chair,
Councilwoman Toy.
if I made a mistermina, did I read notes that this was, at one time, they wanted 4 splits on this, or?
I never saw a plan for 4 splits on this
Okay.
property.
So help me understand the bigger lot. What size is that one?
This one,
Yeah, the largest one there.
this is 134 by 156.
So that
About
meets all
20,000.
standards, right?
That meets all the standards relative to dimensions.
Okay. And do we know what the builder's building on those? I mean,
All single-family homes.
brick or
You
thereabouts?
know what, Mr. Berry is here and can speak to that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Berry.
Hello.
Good evening.
Are these single-family
Yeah,
brick?
yeah, 3
mostly?
single-family homes. Yep, they're
Yeah.
going to be custom homes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I know the very builders from many councils ago, and this is one of the sons, and they build quality homes. They used to line up for their subdivisions and for their homes. So I'm going to offer an approving. I know it's, there's a little bit of deficiency there, but I think they can make it work with no problem.
Sounds good. Are you fine to put that on regular or consent?
I'll put it on the regular in case my colleagues have comments.
Sounds good. I'm going to go to Councilman Donovan.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Tormina, would you consider these lots to kind of be unique in nature, which is the shapes and whatnot?
Well, the shapes are not unique. I think, again, as I mentioned, what's unique here is how this lot is positioned relative to Meadowview Lane. It's not part of the subdivision, so this is all part of a platted subdivision. These lots would gain their access from that subdivision street. You can see there's a standard rectangular shaped lots. He just doesn't have enough frontage here to get, for this lot. It's unique in that this only has 25 feet of right-of-way frontage.
And I'm worried that if we didn't do this, do you think there'd be an argument that in the future someone buys that building to the east and maybe buys this land as well and redevelops the entire thing to some other more intensive use as opposed to single-family homes?
I could see that based on the frontage on Major Road. Consolidating this parcel with the adjacent lot would probably generate a lot of interest in either some type of townhome development or something probably different than what we're looking at.
And I just bring that up because I'd prefer to have single-family homes here adjacent to other single-family homes. It's more harmonious. I think it'll just look better. And Mr. Berry, I know that you guys do more your custom high-end homes as opposed to your traditional specs. So I think it's a great idea. I know it is a little unique, but I think that with not that many remaining lots left, we got to do what we got to do, so to speak, and get some good products in our neighborhoods and kind of work with the realities of the development of the land. So I'm okay with it improving.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Anybody else from council? Councilwoman Budzinski.
I mean, the driveway situation seems like it's going to be very, it's hard because this is aerial and not on the ground. Are there concerns that it's really going to be impeding with the nearest residential neighbor there?
Well, I think you can see the relationship between the parcel to the south, if that's the one you're referring to, in this lot. So it's not directly behind. So if the home is sited here, it's probably not impeding from that standpoint. The 25 feet, I don't know what the grades are along here. Maybe Mr. Berry can speak to the ability to bring a driveway in, all the necessary utilities in from Meadowview, but I don't know what kind of a challenge that is, if there are no constraints or not, so.
No, not really. The property falls from west to east, so it descends from the road towards the house to the east. The 25 feet is more than enough for a driveway, usually at an approach, or at the right-of-way line, it's usually 16 feet wide, and then it flares to 20. So I don't see us having any issues there. There is a ditch in front of in front of the entire parcel. There's a ditch there, so there will be a culvert for all of the driveways, all 3 of them.
And what's the square footage for the homes on the property?
As I said, they're gonna be custom homes, so my guess is they're gonna be probably like a 2,000-foot ranch up to maybe a 3,000-foot colonial, is what my guesstimate is where I'll probably end up.
That's my only question. I'd just ask, could we put this on regular?
Yep, it's already on regular.
Oh, it is, all right.
Yep. Councilman Jolly?
These will not be organized under like condo zoning at all, right? Okay.
They'll be platted lots.
Okay.
All right, we have an approving for the regular. I'm going to go to the audience. Do we have any audience communication on this item? Seeing none. Council, any other questions? We have an approving on regular. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
The matter will be voted on at the meeting on the August 5th. I would recommend being here.
Perfect, thank
Thank
you.
you. All right. Moving on to item number 10, which is a request to approve vacation time increase. This comes to us from the Civil Service Department for department heads and appointees. Good evening.
Good evening, council members. It's good to see you all. I am here to ask for your approval for a change in the vacation time for our department heads and appointees. It's currently about 18 people that would be impacted. Currently, when someone is hired, they get a bucket of 3 weeks of vacation, and thereafter they accrue it at 10 hours per month, which gives you about 3 weeks per year. It's under market. It's tough to recruit at an executive level for that. This proposal would also, in time, save the city money because currently it's a payout system. You get paid out for what you don't use. So our budgeting for this level of employee would be a flat 52-week budget. You don't have to budget for the payout. So it's actually not just cost neutral, but a savings for the city. In addition, it would make us much more competitive in terms of recruiting.
Mr. Chair,
Councilwoman Toy.
I'm going to offer an approving. We need to be competitive, and we're not unless we begin to do creative things like this. So I'm going to ask for an approving. My colleagues can decide if they want on consent or regular.
Thank you. Councilman Jolly.
I think it's appropriate for the level of employee that we're trying to attract to offer 5 weeks of vacation. But so there's 5 weeks of vacation plus an accrued sick time bank, correct?
Yes.
And then with the latter half of your initial comments, are you saying that there would be a change to current payout practices for people who utilize this, or no?
So there's two different kinds of payouts. For vacation time, whatever you don't use at the time of your separation from your employment, whether it's voluntary, involuntary, retirement, whatever, you get that paid out at the current rate that you're getting paid. So that's an additional cost for the city to carry or accrue. Relative to sick time, that's not a straight payout. That gets paid out into your retirement health savings plan. So it's not a direct cash transaction. Yeah. The retirement health savings plan is similar. Well, let me back up this similar. It's a savings plan for when you retire for health costs.
Yeah, I can appreciate it. When did that happen?
That's been there for a while. I'm sorry, Councilman Jolly, I don't know the exact answer.
Okay.
Doesn't apply to you.
It does not apply to any of us, so I'm just trying to understand. So explain to me, and I'm not trying to belabor the issue, where does the cost savings come in?
So for
It's hard for
vacation
me to
time, carve out sick time, take that off the table because they're not the same kind of paid time off. For just vacation time, so I don't want to use myself as an example. If someone left their employment right now with the city and they had 3 weeks of vacation time, whatever that they were unused, whatever their current pay rate is, they would just get that as a check.
Right.
So it's sort of like a bonus on your way out if you haven't taken vacation while you've worked here. If we move to this system, it would just be a straight 52-week accrual for salary. There would be nothing to pay out at the end.
Amen.
Okay.
So it's sort of a use it or lose it with a caveat of a little rollover in there as well.
And then under this, nobody's rolling over vacation time then, is that correct?
There is a rollover provision that's in there, and you can roll over some vacation time until May of the following year.
Okay, but then that would not be paid out?
No.
Okay.
You still only get
Use it or
paid for
lose it?
52 weeks, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That was a good question.
Vice President?
Thank you. Quick question, I just want to make sure we've got it correct. So let's say for 2024, I get 5 weeks. I could use that until May of '25?
Yes.
Okay. But after that, you lose it?
After that, you don't get to keep
And we're not
carrying
getting any kind, there's no incentive to not use it?
No.
Because you're not, okay.
And the good news is that when a department head takes time off, it's not, that time is not covered by someone else that would be getting paid overtime. It's, there's no one who's doing more work than the person who's about to go on vacation.
And this is in addition to, obviously, paid holidays?
Yes.
Like
this
New
is
Year's
in
Day
addition.
or whatever? Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I do have one question, because obviously this is just for directors. Does this correlate to our unions and even our, middle-level managers? I mean, do they have the same kind of fringe benefits, or is this going to be a bad day when everybody finds out? I'm just, listen.
I love
I'm
that
just-
question. I do. I love that question. So for our bargaining unit members, it has not yet been, it's not something that they've negotiated yet. And of course, that's, heads up to my bargaining units out there. But that's not
They're
something
all
that's,
watching too right now.
I'm sorry. Yes, so that's not something that they've currently negotiated, and, I'll leave that up to them to meet me at the table with it.
All right.
For middle management, I'd love to see a change, but I'll be back.
Yeah. So I mean, my biggest thing is, and I think you'll appreciate it, is the work-life balance is the key here. And I still remember getting cashed out a ton when I moved from Novi to Northville, and I sat there and I was upset with it because I go, yeah, it's a nice amount of money, but that was my sanity. So the work-life balance is key, and I'm happy that you guys are taking the direction to do this. Yeah, I mean, that is industry. And then on a different note, I know we're in budgeting season, but I can't speak for my colleagues, but if you wanted, I would not be opposed to seeing a citywide salary study to help you added to a budget.
I won't give Debbie any.
I'm only one to vote, but I
hand
think that would give you a blueprint instead of trying to piecemeal a lot of this, especially with, doing an overall. It's just an opinion.
I love it.
But you have an approving on, are we leaving it on regular or is that on consent? So it's, you are the motion maker. You want to leave it on?
Consent then.
And we got an approving on consent unless my colleagues say otherwise. Anything from the audience? Thanks for hanging out, girls. Was it fun? Yeah.
Yeah. They think they're on TV right now.
You are on
so-
TV. Everybody's watching you, the union reps and everything.
Yep. Anyhow.
Thanks.
Thank you all so very much. Have a great night.
You too.
Two.
All right, moving on to item number 11 is an award of bid from the Livonia Housing Commission for the replacement of windows in 120 units in Newburgh Village from budgeted funds. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Proud Stevenson graduate, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear. Oh,
Newburgh Village was built back in 1992, and it still has its original windows. We have quite a few apartments with fogged glass in both the community room and also the residential units, 120 apartments. The Housing Commission prepared specifications, received 7 bids. You have a tabulation of the bids attached. The low bid was from a company out of Indiana, in Indianapolis, Indiana, Richmond Exteriors, and you can see some of their specifications for this project. They were a little more expensive. They were the low bid. However, the second low bid was a Livonia contractor, Rocket Exteriors, which is on Schoolcraft. The windows are manufactured in Livonia, Livonia installers. They have a better warranty, better service, and so we would recommend that we not accept the low bid, but accept the Livonia contractor, Rocket Exteriors, in the amount of $253,108.
Perfect. Councilman Morgan?
From budgeted funds.
Oh, Councilman Donovan.
I will defer to Councilman Morgan.
Councilman Morgan, do you want to make a motion on this?
Yeah, I just have a question for,
Sure.
real quick regarding this. Is there, what type of warranties are on these windows?
So we have a 30-year window warranty.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, yeah, I would offer an approving on consent.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Jolly.
Jim, were you involved in the building of Newburgh Village? No, I mean, I hate to say it, but that was during your tenure, correct?
I built Silver Village as well.
What year was that?
Back in '76.
Okay.
That's,
So,
so you're coming full circle.
and we will be bringing another proposal for a new development as well.
And you have to stay until you see that one through, all the way through the window
All the way.
replacement.
He's like, I'm out. I'm out.
Your tenure will be
There'll be a shovel in the
150
ground,
years. No.
and that's about it.
I love seeing these requests, though. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we have an approving on consent.
They have
Audience communication, I can see none. So, yeah, your matter's all but approved.
Thank you very
Keep it
much.
up.
Thank you.
Night, Jim.
All right, item number 12, award a bid, Department of Public Works for shelving and racking project at the Water and Sewer Garage from budgeted funds. Mr. Moore, this is what I've been waiting for the entire night, so take it away.
Evening, Council. Doug Moore with Department of Public Works. The first item I have before you is shelves and racks for the DPW headquarters. As part of the master plan, we're looking at finally getting the old water and sewer building taken down. We've got materials still stored in there that we need to bring over to the new building, and these racks and shelves would be very helpful. It went out on Mitten. We had 2 bids, and the lowest bidder is Shelving Inc. out of Madison Heights, I believe, for the amount of $36,382.56, and it's from budgeted funds.
Council,
Approving.
there we go. Consent?
Sure.
Got an approving on consent, not to discount your shelves and racking project.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Moore, thanks for being here this evening. You made mention that the DPW department is planning on demolishing the old water building. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what will that process look like? What does that look like moving into the future? Just demoing the building, then
Yes,
vacant land?
right now, as part of the master plan, it would be demoing the building, and then there's phase 2 and phase 3, which includes work on the, what is now the Roads and Parks building and the building maintenance sign shop.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Those guys and gals work very hard back there, so it'll be nice to see some needed improvements back there.
Yes.
Happy to see that your shelves will help in that process.
And it's racking program, too.
Yes.
Racking program.
All right, get it right. All right, audience, none. All right, council, none. Moving on. Item number 13 is a request for authorization to purchase 1 dump truck through the Rochester Hills Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. This comes to us from Public Works. Mr. Moore.
This will be a dump truck for the park maintenance section. It'll be upfitted with a front plow and an auger and spinner for salting, and a leaf box for collection and chipping of brush. Summertime, it'll be used to haul playground wood chips, sand, ball diamond slag, that kind of material. The truck's being purchased through the Rochester Hills Cooperative Award Agreement. That's going to cost $103,501. Upfitting will be done by Truck and Trailer Specialties for $84,845. The leaf box is going to cost $16,590. And we have a contingency of $16,890 in case we run into any cost overruns for steel. All told, the total cost is $221,826.
Councilman Jolly.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, I want our employees and our parks to benefit from the best equipment and new equipment and to have what they need. So I'm going to offer an approving, I'll put it on consent even, but I have a question. And this is, I mean, to be honest with you, this is an opportunity where it's perfect, it perfectly aligns. Recently I've seen pictures where some areas of the parks have maintenance needs. Is there a stress in regards to manpower or woman power or people power to get some of the jobs done within the parks? Are we also experiencing a shortage of employees able to do those things?
Depends on the time of year. If it's May and the grass is growing like crazy, yes, we can't keep up with the grass.
Yeah, I'm not even, I mean, listen, I respect you immensely, and I think you're a great employee, and I'm not putting you on the spot. There's just, like, there's areas where, like, playground equipment, like the wood chip, the mulch area is, like, overgrown with weeds, like, things like that. Is that an area, I'm just asking, like.
Well, I understand there's issues with mulch, and we do have a certified playground inspector. I'm a certified playground inspector. We do go around and inspect playgrounds once a month through the season, If issues need to be done, we will address them. One of the things about weeds is it's a double-edged sword. Can't spray Roundup because of all the issues with Roundup. So when you can't go in and kill the weeds, you got to find alternative ways to do that. Roundup is a good product for killing weeds. Alternatives aren't always a good product to kill weeds, so.
So that's one of the issues there?
Yeah, that's one of the
I'm looking for
issues.
information because we get these things and we're not the source, and you understand that, but absent me giving them your phone number, I gotta have some information to tell them.
I understand completely. As far as playground wood chips, we are now in the process of ordering $16,000 worth of chips to refill the stock that we had. We went in last fall with a pile and most of it's gone out, and that's why we're getting more back in. It goes out, it gets used, it gets
I get
kicked
it.
around.
I get it. I just, like I said, we get, we unfortunately or fortunately, people ask us these questions.
Right.
And you're the source for the information. Anyways, approving for consent. I appreciate the work that you and your people do. Thank you.
Yep.
I got Vice President, and I got Councilwoman Budzinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Moore, quick question. I know back March, April time, we already approved a dump truck. So this is an additional dump truck?
That dump truck turned into a, it's a flat, I can't think of the name of it now. It's late and I'm sorry. Steak truck. Thanks, Todd. It turned into a steak truck because there was a mistake in the way the bids came in. So this one is the replacement for that steak truck.
Okay, so the other one that we approved,
Is a steak truck in the road section now.
okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I was like, wait, I thought we already did
Yes.
this.
Good memory.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to make sure before we went and approved it. Okay, thank you for answering
Yes.
that.
So I guess, did we need the other truck that we ended up getting as well?
Yes. The steak truck is replacing an older steak truck that's going out for auction.
Okay. And how many dump trucks do we currently have in the fleet?
In park maintenance or the whole fleet?
The whole fleet?
Approximately 20. I don't have the number offhand.
Oh, okay. Do you feel like that's
There's
good?
14 to 16 in road maintenance, and there's 4 to 6 in the water and sewer section.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Audience? No? Okay. You have been approving on consent on that. We're going to move on to item number 14, which is a request to amend Council Resolution 121-24 from the Department of Public Works. This is to include upfitting costs for the previously approved purchase of 2 2024 Ford F-150 Super Cab XL pickup trucks from budgeted funds.
Yeah, I was here back in March, I believe. We had trucks come in that needed to be paid for at the vendor. There were 2 F-250s and 2 F-150s. We were going to come back with the upfitting. We're back with the upfitting costs now. The 2 F-250s will get boss plows, toolboxes, light packages, running boards, bed liners, backup alarms. The cost for that is $33,622. The 2 F-150s will be used by our meter readers in the meter section. They'll get toolboxes, light packages, bed liners, and cab protectors. That's $15,130. All told, the upfitting for the 4 trucks is $48,752, and that is from budgeted funds.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I do remember we had pushed this off, so I'll be happy to offer an approving on consent for this one.
Cool. Anything else from council?
No.
All right, so again, we moved the current number 15 to the next meeting. So the replacement 15 is a request to waive the formal bidding process.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Mr. Moore. An award of contract. This comes to us from the engineering department for the Plymouth Road sanitary sewer lining for the amount not to exceed $275,000 from budgeted funds. Mr. Lear, take us home.
Sure. So in response to the donation that we received from Ford Motor Company to prevent against future pollution or contamination in the sanitary sewers, one of the line items that they specified was to line and clean sanitary sewer mains. In response to that, we are asking for approval of a contract not to exceed $275,000 to SAK Construction, which was also just approved for the overall DPW lining and cleaning contracts. We don't want to do this under the regular DPW because the money has to be separated out from the Ford funds that we've received. So we're looking to waive the formal bidding process and approve the contract for the not to exceed $275,000.
Perfect. Counsel?
A question, and then I'll offer an approving. Is the pricing comparable with the pricing that they just provided for the bid process?
Yes,
The bidded
they're
work?
honoring their bid price. So since that was just done,
Yeah,
you know.
then it makes it easy. I'll offer approving for consent. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, who does this cleaning in the city then? Which,
I
you
do.
drew the short
I do
straw
the cleaning.
tonight. I just wondered, that's all.
I do the cleaning, then Councilman Donovic does the lining of it.
I thought he drove.
No, that's Councilman Morgan.
Got a whole system here.
So everybody in the audience, that concludes the study agenda. Councilman Montoya, you want to give some parting words?
Motion to adjourn.
Safely show something.
That's about all I can contribute.